I'm joined by Ada, who reached out to me on TikTok, and I am super excited to have a chat because you grew up in Iran under the Islamic regime, and I think that it's really valuable to share your story with our followers because I think it's something that not enough people are talking about.
That's right. Thank you so much for talking to me and getting my insight. I'm very grateful to be part of this platform that is a sharing platform. And I learned so much from different people, different points of view, and different life experiences here on TikTok. And I hope that my testimony and my life experience becomes a little bit of a use to people. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think I'm all about, because unless you hear experiences, which I'll be honest, I don't imagine I'll be able to relate to your experience personally,
Yes.
but hearing it's so vital that we hear from people that have experienced other
Yeah,
things that we can learn from.
that's right.
And I think that's what I really think from the particularly people who were in Iran. There's similarities, people have said, between what's happening now. And I think, yeah, here kind of having voices like yours and trying to get them out there is so important.
Thank you.
So yeah, I don't know if you want to start by kind of telling us a little bit about what life was like growing up in Iran,
Yeah.
and kind of because you've how long have you been in the UK?
So I've been in the UK about 22 years now, and I've
Yeah,
lived in this amazing country, which has given me so much freedom, sense of identity, respect. I've been through a lot in this country as an immigrant, but then I'm so grateful to be living here, and I love the UK. I love British people and sort of coexisting with different points of view and different religions and different sexual orientations, and all in harmony and with respects and lines that you cannot cross, so that we all coexist together in this society, which I never had this in Iran. I could never come on here and talk to another person online about negativity of my experience about anything in Iran without having severe consequences. So a little bit about background. I was born in 1982, which is like a few years after the revolution. I never seen the Iran before the Islamic revolution. My mom and dad and that generation has seen Iran without the Islamic regime ruling it. I never had that. I was born when they were really, really strict, and they were trying to make Iran an Islamic country, a Shia Muslim country. And all of us children were supposed to be programmed and molded into Shia Muslims who fights for Islam in jihad, who hate Jewish state and Israel and the West. So my upbringing was all propaganda, but I'm happy to confirm that they have miserably failed in raising a generation of Iranians who hate
yeah,
the rest of the world, who hate non-Muslims, who hate Jews and Americans and British and, and blue-eyed, pale-skinned Westerners. They really have failed miserably, and I'm really happy. I laugh in their faces because they couldn't do what they were pushing so hard to do for so many years. All of us are now grow up to be wanting to be in touch with the rest of the world, to be welcoming for the culture for the rest of the world, to be disapproval of the Islamic regime's way and propaganda, to be disapproval and critical of Islam itself. Like this
yeah,
is, yeah, but we are the damaged generation, all of us that were born in in the 80s, after the revolution. We all suffer from so many mental health and sort of personality disorders. I have borderline personality disorder myself, and this is just for trauma. It's an unhealed trauma, untreated trauma, which you're familiar with the work you do.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and you know,
Yeah.
it's something that I cannot reverse. It was a traumatic childhood and a traumatic teenagehood, especially teenage years. And but we've survived it. We survived the war, we survived the regime, we survived the brainwash and the pressure and the two lives that we had to live. One life at home, which was
Yeah.
completely different and free, and mom and dad will tell us these are all lies, but you have to memorize it because you have an exam next week and we need you to
Yeah.
get grades. And one other
Yeah.
life was the school that they would ask you, do you pray 5 times a day? And if you said no, you and your family would be in danger. You could never say, I'm not a Muslim, or I don't pray 5 times a day, or I don't like Prophet Muhammad's legacy and character by the things that I read from the books, or I'm curious to know where Israel is, or how Jewish people live their lives. Just curiosity. But none
Yeah.
of that. You could never even ask questions in school. So, you know, we've sort of grown up as confused children, and our
Yeah.
characters and our personalities developed in that chaos.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That
yeah,
and I think it must be in. I'm torn. In some senses, it's good that your parents weren't also fully indoctrinated into it, but then it means that also that's where that confusion comes, because you're living these two completely different lives,
absolutely.
which is obviously what has caused you so much
Yeah.
trauma, but also what has allowed you to build a new life, because you had, do you know what, you had some degree of reality in your
That's
life.
right. Yeah. I'm grateful to be coming from a family who would force feed the truth to us underneath all the nonsense. There are girls and boys that they never were privileged enough to have a family to tell them this is nonsensical, to have the knowledge and the education, and or there are families that actually agree with all the propaganda. There are really strictly Muslims family who then carry on at home in this, pushing this agenda and pushing this bubble into their and this is the generation that now grown up supporting the regime. I'm happy to witness so many of them making their own minds when they grow up, and the power of social media and being exposed to the outside world. That's a privilege in itself, and it's turned so many people around. That would not
Yeah.
happen a few years ago when we didn't have social media. And I tell you, the regime in Iran, the Islamic regime, is so afraid of the internet and the social media, and they've restricted it as much as possible to filter the truth. But they fail. They fail every day. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the failure. Do you think that's partly due to I the problem is, because so little information gets in, also not much information gets
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
it's hard to fully understand, but it sounds like life under the Islamic regime is pretty
It
awful,
is.
which means that people aren't wanting to defend it, because it's different. If life under the regime was
Yeah.
brilliant, you'd have people defending it, but it sounds like more and more people are seeing that there's a different way to live and
Yeah.
really starting to turn on it. And I've seen
Absolutely.
there's a big movement recently, isn't there, of women refusing to wear
Yeah.
the hijab or niqab,
Yeah.
and that that is wonderful to see.
Yes, of
That
course. But what makes me sad is that there was 3 years of bloodshed till this moment that women are now taken to the streets without the compulsory hijab. The Western media, the mainstream media, is radio silent about this. The Woman Life Freedom Uprising was completely suppressed in this part of the world. I live in England. I don't see anything much coming out of,
No.
even the
Yeah.
hashtags got suppressed and didn't get views on social media platform because the Islamic regime paid off the social media moguls. TikTok, which belongs to China, and China has long-term contracts with the regime. Instagram, Facebook. Do you know there are Iranians in America that they try to sue Instagram because of the hashtags of women life freedom movements didn't get, it got suppressed, and they collected evidence and they took them to court. But then you see these really horrendous things unfolding in front of your eyes, that for the first time the president of Islamic regime has a blue tick and an account for the first time on Instagram. So Instagram actually rewarded the regime. The UN, the United Nations, who's now been so anti-Semitic and so anti-Israel, proved to all of us Iranian that they are puppets in the hands of the Islamic regime, and they taken bribes to suppress and choose silent or during the woman life freedom genocide. They did not say a word. They actually rewarded the Islamic regime. They give them, I think it was human rights agency and the UN women actually, that they elected they elected representatives from the Islamic regime and give them a higher up position in the agency, which was like really frustrating for all the Iranians, screaming through their phones and
Yeah.
social media that they're killing people. To this moment that I'm talking to you, there is mass executions of Iranian rebels in Iran. A regime is just gradually cleansing Iranians who are anti-Islam, anti-Islamic regime. And
And
yeah.
this is the thing, which is it's so hard to find out about
Mm.
if you want to. Because I recently got annoyed because my Instagram was full of people claiming that the Iranian regime had loosened the rules and that it was no longer necessary to wear a hijab. And it was, I saw it over 100 times, and people on the
They
left were
kill
sharing it
so
saying,
many people up to this point. Women are brave. They're going out. They're like, we don't care. If you want to kill us, kill us. They've given
yeah,
up,
yeah,
But there are names of the women that was killed. And I had an Instagram page that I documented everything from the first moment. And Instagram deleted my page no matter how much I appealed. I cannot get that page back, that I have dates and every single step of the way. I documented what the regime is doing out there, and I can't get it back up. They
no,
wiped
that
it,
and it,
yeah. But then,
this and that. I've had the same. I've
yeah,
had posts deleted that I it's you see some of the anti-Semitism on
yeah,
TikTok, for
yeah,
example, and it's right. I posted a headline, a news headline that was speaking against the Iranian regime, and it got deleted off
yeah,
TikTok within 10. It was seconds. It just boom gone,
yeah,
and they said I was spreading hatred,
yeah, yeah.
and it was a news headline,
They mass
and it
report you, you see. The Islamic
yeah,
regime has a cyber army. They literally sit in rooms full of computers and they find everyone who puts a hashtag out or everyone creating content, and they mass report it. And they have a chokehold on social media ownership. They have a chokehold on British media. I can go through this bit by bit in a separate video and pull this apart of what unfolded in that 2 years over here in the UK. But now to bring it back to today, to this current time of ours, the Islamic regime is like committing these horrendous crimes against humanity, but the pro-Palestinians think they are the humanitarians of the world. They're protecting Palestinians. And the Israelis and the IDF are the murderers, are the bloodshedders, are the ones that just want to kill and murder children. How can they get the side of the Islamic regime over Israel, who just defends itself and it's citizens. Yeah. So this is the
And yeah,
irony. This is what I want to talk about. This is what I want pro-Palestinians to listen to. I'm a living testimony that how vile the Islamic regime is and how much murder, rape, and bloodshed they've done to underage kids even. You know, and now you think that they are the good ones and they are the necessary people in the Middle East to protect the poor Palestinians. This is like really frustrating. This is something we should pull apart with evidence on social media. Yeah,
it's something I've spoken a lot against, is how the left leaning people have
yeah.
this pathological love of Islamic regimes, and
It's very
it's like they're
strange.
complete war.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're committing every crime, which they're anti-women, they're
gee.
anti-LGBT, they're anti everything that the left say
Yeah,
they
yeah,
love,
yeah,
and it's a fascinating but terrifying thing to see
yeah,
people defend. Like there's the movement Queers for Palestine,
yeah.
and it's
I'm
just, and I
sorry,
think
but that
what's
makes
worse,
me laugh. Queers for Palestine. It
yeah,
makes me laugh growing up to see what LGBTQ is to a Muslim society. That makes me just, my eyes want to pop out that queer people and LGBTQ people are standing. They're talking about Hamas as if they're talking about some sort of heroic force of liberating, freedom fighting supermen and women. It's just really bizarre. Yeah,
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 and it's, and I think what I find most disturbing and disrespectful is that when people like you, who you have experienced this, and I think it's really important for people to remember
yeah,
that you're sat here in the UK, but you lived this, you
yeah,
understand
yeah,
more than anybody
yeah,
else what this is
yeah.
like, and the fact that they will silence you and disrespect you, and I imagine people will accuse you of being paid £7,000 or whatever it
They
is by
can go
Israel,
right
and it,
ahead and do that. I'm bulletproof. Do you know, I'm a woman who's been bullied her entire life by grown-ups that they were in charge of raising us and making us feel safe. And they didn't do that. They did horrendous stuff to us because they were being bullied in that society themselves. They were being bullied and oppressed. So they did terrible things to children of that society. This is, they can throw anything at me. They can body shame me. They can be horrible to me. They can say anything they like. They've already broken my mental health. And I only have my faith that carries me on and the hope of the promise that Jesus has made to us. This is all prophesied in the book. We knew that this is going to come. So as an individual, I'm not saying anyone should go with my beliefs, but as an individual, as someone who has Christ in her life, I hold on to that truth. And I know the day will come, but it will be too late for these people. I'm telling you, for anyone who's turning their back on the truth because it doesn't suit what they like the truth to be, or what their agenda and their purpose and the trend, they're gonna rue the day, and then it will be too late.
because they don't they don't want the
No,
truth. They just want anything that
yeah,
aligns with their ideology. And this is, I always say to people, like, I don't really hold on to a specific ideology super hard, because as soon as you do, you become blind to the actual
absolutely,
truth.
absolutely.
And yeah,
Yeah,
and one question I wanted to
yeah.
ask is, do you think life under the Islamic regime, are they pretending they're doing it under the guise of Sharia law, or is it Sharia law that is
It is
brutal.
pure Sharia law. I never understand the argument that this is not the real Islam. This is just they're oppressing people. This is the real Islam putting into practice. So everything they do is the constitution is rewritten after the Islamic revolution according to Quran. And I'm the person who had to study Quran line by line, verse by verse in school and understand it. So I don't accept at all the argument that this is not the real Islam. The real Islam is the religion of peace. This is just what they're doing. This is the terrorism version of it. That is not true. And I wish
No.
Muslims who are not oblivious to what the book is saying at least take some responsibility for what has been committed to people around the world in the name of their religion. I
Yeah,
wish,
this
yeah,
that's such a brilliant point, because that's something. It's I always say to people, even if in your head you don't say that it's Islam, at least admit that it has all been done under the name of Islam.
yes,
That's
yes,
that's because it's really interesting hearing you say that it is Islam,
yes,
because it's something that I've every time something happens, like the shooting outside the mosque, not the mosque, sorry, the synagogue in
yeah.
Manchester. Everyone said that's not Islam, and as soon
I'm
as a
sorry, that's
Muslim does a bad
jihad. That's
yeah,
direct command in Islam towards Jewish people and the Yahud, which is the Jews. This animosity and the hatred in Islam towards Jews, it's you can't deny. It's in the book. Then they don't read
mm,
their own book. Then if they deny it, or they're too
mm,
emotionally attached to it to even accept that this is facts.
mm.
Yeah,
That and it's because lots of people are still denying that
absolutely.
the anti-Semitism that appears to be threaded through Islam quite
Yeah.
categorically. And I hear so many British Muslims saying the translations have been done wrong and it's all been taken out of
Mm-mm-mm.
context.
Mm-mm.
Um, and I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt.
I
So
understand. Yes.
I always want to be like, oh, okay. But every time I read verses, or I haven't read the Quran,
Yeah.
but the sections that I've read and the research I've done, it it doesn't sound like what Jesus said, is all I always
No,
think.
no. Quran is such a horrendous piece of writing. When you go into it, the way the commands regarding marriage, women's right, regarding the rights of women in society, you know, this is why don't people read it? It's translated into English. You can even download apps and read it on your phone, verse by verse, and make up your own mind about it. But I mean, it's too difficult, isn't it? Looking for the truth. It's easier to sort of digest other people's impression of things. There's nudge theory, the nudge theory that the opinion leaders, so they consume something and they project something to their followers. And people are more comfortable absorbing that point of view rather than going to the source. So it's,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, and I think for people that have really bought into the pro-Islam
yeah,
ideology, if they accepted that they were wrong, their entire personality would crumble. And
absolutely.
I don't think that's something that they can bring
No,
themselves to
no,
do.
no.
They would I don't think they'd be able to cope.
Yeah, yeah,
Um because and I think it's yeah, it's always fascinating to me, but slightly terrifying when people that understand Islam say this is what
yeah,
Islam is. Um,
yeah,
because there's a real movement in the UK, well, the religion of
yeah.
peace. It's it's very real, that movement, isn't it, of people trying to
I know.
encourage people to
Yeah.
believe that.
And you know, like my family, we have so many Muslims in my family in Iran. We have non-Muslims and Muslims. some of them are so harmless, always, you feel sorry for them if you see them. They live their lives, they practice the religion, they never try and push or judge or punish anybody for not being a Muslim. I'm not judging all Muslim people. I'm not labeling them as aggressive terrorists. No, it's not at all. This is not being enemies with the Muslims. But please don't tell me what is this in this book, and then coming from Islamic rules being put to practice in society. I, as an individual, cannot be lectured that this is not the real Islam, that the real Islam doesn't practice, that doesn't preach all of this being done. At the beginning of this war of Gaza and Israel, and after the horrendous atrocity that happened on October 7, I now sitting in really like shock and watching footages of pro-Palestinians in streets of London literally shouting death to Yahud in Arabic, death to Yahud, which I have personally reported to the police in this country with the images, and the person has been arrested and questioned and set free. I'm being told the reason is that this has so many different meanings. Jihad has some. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have so many different meanings. Stop it. Why didn't you charge him with hate crime? So nobody was held accountable and they carried on.
That, and I think that's such a good point that you made, because I have a similar view to you, and I trust everything you're saying
Yeah,
about Islam, but I agree with you that that doesn't equate all Muslims.
yeah,
So you can still have people that are living as
yeah,
Muslims that have they are peaceful people. They have no negative
yes,
intentions, and I think that's the bit which I think political correctness has tried to put onto people, that if you criticize
yeah,
Islam, you're criticizing all Muslims, and that never was
yeah,
true. And I think that that's the bit that I always find frustrating, is that you can discuss and criticize the
yeah,
ideology without criticizing every single
yeah,
person.
yeah,
And I think, in terms of, one of the things that I'm always interested in is the difference between Islam and Islamism.
yeah.
And I'd be interested to hear your opinion on the difference, whether there is much of a difference, what your thoughts are on
There
this.
is much of a difference. There are difference between domestic Muslims just living under their beliefs in Prophet Muhammad and the Quran, and then the politically motivated Muslims who want Sharia law to be ruling the world, not just their family or their society. They want to push Islamic ideology into the world, and they disapprove and dismantle anything that comes in the way, or they're not very tolerant towards other beliefs. So if someone is not Muslim, then they're going to assume them as an enemy of Islam. So Islamists, I think, to my knowledge and to my understanding, are the radicalized Muslims, that they are pushing the political ideology of the Islamic ideology ruling the world. And this presumption that everything coming from the West, which is predominantly Christian countries, are the enemies of Islam and are enemies of the core and the values of Islam. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And they
And
push this here in the UK as well,
yeah,
all over Europe. Okay, they have spread like a rash everywhere. It's not just in some certain society, and they don't keep to themselves. They're publicizing all of this and glorifying all of this now. So I see it in Europe, in different countries, here in the UK, even in America and Canada, everywhere. Yeah,
that
it's very, very
and,
strange.
and that it seems like there's a big Islamist agenda
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
UK at the moment, and there has been for quite a long
Yeah.
time. um, and I think it's important to state so when the Islamic, correct me if anything that I say is wrong, by the way, you know more than me. When Islam took over Iran, it was aided by people that were on the left politically.
So this is the
Or yeah,
complication. Yeah.
I'd love to understand
Yeah,
this.
so unfortunately, the revolution in Iran was sort of started by the Westerners, and the
Yeah,
problem was the greed for a cheaper oil. So the British government at the time and the American government, especially guided by President Carter, who was a very good friend of the Shah of Iran, they sort of publicized Shah as to be anti humanitarian laws and portrayed him as some kind of villain, and they sort of spend a lot of money and did PR to sort of use the left and the socialist ideas of having a more equal society to start off this revolution and overrule the Shah, because it wasn't beneficial for them, for Shah to be in charge. And because this religion dependency in Iran and Middle East worked in the past by British government to bring this sort of subservience and unity between people, Iranian people before. They pulled that old trick again and they brought, but the left in Iran, they just wanted a democracy. They wanted freedom of speech, which Shah of Iran limited quite a lot, and that was used to his disadvantage. And then so they wanted freedom of speech, they wanted less inequality. There was a lot of poverty in Iran, which Shah and his family were working towards resolving. And they never been given the time. They were building Iran. They were trying to tackle everything. All of the good
yeah,
that they did just went out of the door because all of that bad publicity. So it wasn't the left that wanted an Islamic country. It really, the revolution started by the socialists and the left, and it was stolen. It was pushed towards the very end, towards Ayatollah Khomeini coming and the Muslims taking over, and that was with the support
mm,
of outsiders. So UK and America and France played a part. And my mom and dad were lefties. My mom and dad were Marxists. My mom and dad were revolutionaries. My mom and dad were the generation who took to the streets to oppose poverty in Iran and oppose lack of freedom of expression, lack of freedom of speech, all of that, women's right, all of that. But they, at the end of the revolution, when Ayatollah Khomeini came with Air France and took over the power, all of them were in shock as to what the hell's happening. Shah is gone and we have a mullah that's going to take over. And they really talk about this quite a lot, that even in demonstrations and rallies in the street, that there was no talk of Islamic government. And then all of a sudden, everyone were chanting, the Islamic government, and they wanted, and they were all in like mini skirts and sleeveless cleavage and all of that, and they were chanting for Khomeini, not really knowing what is an Islamic regime, what is an Islamic
that
society
it.
look like.
I've seen the
Yeah,
pictures from the 60s and 70s of the women in mini skirts, and
yeah,
I've had people before in the UK
yeah.
tell me that they're AI and that they're fake.
No, there
Yeah,
are
no,
archives. You can't blame everything on AI. My mom is the living testimony that there was not very few
yeah,
people had hijab on. Majority of people were in jeans and tops and sweaters and all of that with, and they were like, they just caught up in this trend and this hype of Khomeini being exactly like the pro-Palestinians now, that they're made this Hamas and Khamenei and everybody else some kind of heroes for themselves. They thought Khomeini is some kind of hero and a freedom fighter, and it's a sort of angel. compare in contrast to the Shah. And all of those people are now living in such deep regret, anger, and misery because they cannot turn it around. And they played a part in all of this young generation losing their lives and all of Iran's wealth being spent on Islamic terrorism around the world. Even now in the UK, there are Iran's oil money being spent to fund pro-Palestinian marches, to fund Islamic rallies for Shia sort of
Yeah,
celebration dates like Muharram or their mourning or all of that. IRGC in the UK is funding all of this to
that
get to the
yeah.
street. The fund
You can
comes
tell
from
it's
them.
funded.
Yeah,
Can't I
yeah,
often say to people, it's
yeah.
obvious. I often think,
They feed people, they publicize it, they make centers for people to get around. They hire Muslim preachers to preach and set on dates. Oh yeah, let's get to. I've had a man sitting in a bus playing loud azan on the phone so that people on the bus here in Brighton can listen to azan and absorb the power. I have fallen out with the man saying, you cannot do this, and you're doing this on purpose because you believe that this azan has powers and you want people on the bus to hear these words. And people were silent because British
yeah,
people want to be tolerant. Well, I'm sorry, this is not time to
that,
be
and
tolerant anymore.
this is where I'm perpetually conflicted, because in lots of senses,
Yes,
I'm so proud that the UK has been able to offer incredible people like you a home, and
yes.
you've come here.
Oh, bless you.
I think you're more patriotic than lots of British people, British born people.
I am. I read about what this country is all about, your history, what's been achieved here, and I don't just complain about what there isn't. There is so much that we have. And if people start feeling pride about it and learn about it, foreigners, they don't want to learn where this country, how, what has been evolved. They don't know England like I do. They just come here to find comfort and peace and
Mm,
economic
yeah,
comfort mostly. But then they cling on to this rotten ideology that was the cause of their misfortune at the beginning in their own country. And they want to cling on to it because as an immigrant, you go through a period of time that you have
yes,
identity crisis. And I have gone through that as well. Every immigrant go through it. And this identity crisis makes people do
mm,
crazy things. I've, there was in the, there was a GP, the doctor, a GP doctor, born and raised in this country that was making bomb in his bathroom, in his bathtub to blow up a church or a mosque that was caught.
mm,
A doctor. Do you know what this identity crisis is passed on generation to generation
mm,
to their children? And British people just stay in silence. They don't want to be labeled as Islamophobe. They don't want to be labeled as racist. They want to be tolerant and acceptance to. They're good people. That I appreciate that. Do you know? But this is not about being tolerant. You have to draw a line in the
yeah.
sand
That, and
someplace.
do you,
Yeah.
how, one of the things I often say to people is, as a white British person, it's hard to tell the difference between Islam and Islamism, and how you tell, because this is the whole problem with the word Islamophobe, isn't it? Is that lots of people are like, it's
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
phobia, it's a rational fear, is what I see lots of people saying. Um,
that's
and
right.
I think
Yeah,
it's hard for people often to recognize whether people are kind of really decent, hardworking, peaceful Muslims, or
yeah,
whether they're Islamists. And I think because there's they don't wear a
yeah,
badge, and I think that that's what's tricky. And I often hear people talking about. I'm not sure whether you hear about it, but takia is something that I hear lots of people talking about, and I don't know if you want to
yeah.
explain what that means because I might get it wrong. Concept of in Islam of lying to protect Islam. What I often hear people online saying is that Islamism, they're allowed to say that they support gay people, for example, if it means they get into power and then can. And I think that's the bit which I
Yeah.
think lots of people find
Yeah.
scary.
It's like
Yes,
a
yes.
white
I think
lie. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the part
yeah,
which lots
yeah,
of
yeah,
people
yeah.
find.
Yes, so that's called
Yeah,
maslahat. Maslahat. Maslahat means it is okay, it is allowed because it's in glorification of
yeah. And I
Islamic
think that's the
purpose.
concept which lots of people find terrifying, because it's hard to understand. Is someone at a pride parade because they just want to pretend to further Islamism,
Yeah,
or are they there because they support it? And I
yeah.
think that's because I've had some quite brutal homophobia from British Muslims in our DMs, saying that they can't,
I'm not
and it
surprised.
seems
I'm
just
not
a
surprised. Yeah,
categoric.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
kind of, it's not whether they want me punished or not, it's what punishment they think I deserve. So it's there's not a question in their mind
yes,
that I should be punished. They just can't decide
yeah,
whether it should be stoning or death or thrown
yeah,
off and that for someone, I'm like,
yeah.
oh, it's terrifying, because it's complete
Yeah.
brainwashing.
Yes, yeah, it's complete, and the sense of entitlement over people's bodies and people's sexuality. So when you control someone's sexuality and dictate what it should be, you essentially controlling that person. And this is at the core of the Islamic society. If you come out of those guidelines and those borders and live a different life, then there is no tolerance towards you. Could you imagine being born in in Iran instead of
That
being born in
it's
Europe
it's
and in
funny.
England,
Yeah.
and live as a gay man in Iran, which so many
Mm,
do in discreet, and it's only a matter of coming across
mm,
someone to report them or not. So every day they're just battling luck and
mm,
fortune to survive. If someone picks on them and monitor them and see them being with someone or living with someone, they can easily be completely destroyed and punished
mm.
by death and all of that. Like, it's just so easy to remove a person with a different
That, and
lifestyle in
it's
Iran.
when our account
Yeah,
first grew years ago, it grew a lot in the Middle East, in countries where it was illegal, and we'd have so many people messaging saying
yeah,
that their only wish was that they could just live with a man. They obviously they didn't care about being married or marriage. They were like, I just don't want to die, and that
yeah,
it's it's it was kind
exactly.
of it's just terrifying and eye opening to know that it's happened. I think people are very disconnected from it. That this is happening now at the moment,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
under the same kind of
yeah,
banner that the LGBT community are kind of marching for. I just the confusion
yeah,
there, and
yeah,
I think one of the other questions I want to ask is
yeah,
the bit that always confuses me and other people is, if someone has fled this, and obviously this isn't what you did, what drives them
yeah.
to try and recreate it here? Do you think they think that it won't be as bad this time, or is it just that they're so brainwashed into the ideology? Because you'd think that people would do what you did and gone, thank God I
Yeah.
got out. I'm going to start a new life, but they don't. They continue the same.
Yeah, it's really strange to me. This is like a disease deep seated within their mind, that when they come outside Iran and all of those demands for being a Muslim ends, they still choose the same thing to go cling on to. And that's not just Iranians, all the Muslims, as if the loneliness and the social isolation and the difficulty of finding a job, a place to live, fear, all of that just pushes them back to the
Mm.
thing that they know best. And then some of them, I mean, majority of people, I feel like they feel that their misfortune comes from abandoning Islam. And if they return to it, because of what Islam promises, that it says if you abandon it, you're doomed and you're misfortuned and you're loved. But if you come back, then you're rewarded and you'll be this and that. It's just really strange to me. It's like this cancer that
Mm.
keeps coming back. I don't understand. Okay, so you were miserable because of all the demands.
Mm.
You're free now. Go and
Yeah.
live how you like. Go and change yourself. But no, it's easier and more emotional connection because they watch their mom pray 5 times a day. They remember grandma wearing a hijab. There is nostalgic bonds and emotional
Mm.
sort of links to that thing. So they go,
It,
it's
it,
really
yeah.
complicated.
I was going to say,
Oppression is a mindset. You take it
it
everywhere
sounds
with you.
like
Yeah.
an abusive relationship when someone's trying to leave and they
Yes.
know they're being abused, but they can't help
Yeah.
but go back. Yeah.
You got it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
mentality. It doesn't matter if you're in America or in the middle of Las Vegas or in Tehran. It is the mind that has
Mm.
to be
And that,
freed,
and I guess to a
and
certain
it's
extent,
not.
like
Yeah.
with an abusive relationship, the person has to be ready. They
Yeah.
have to they have to make that
Yeah.
conscious decision that they're not going to keep doing that. And it sounds like lots of people can't
That's right.
or never get to that point where they make that decision.
Yeah.
'Cause it's the confusion I
That's
always
right.
have is that whenever people talk about Islamism, I always remind them that there are lots of places they could go and live under Sharia law. It's not like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Exactly.
there's lots of places.
Yeah. There are Islamic countries, and but they never get chosen for Muslim. Muslims like Europe and they like America. They like
Mm,
Western countries. But unfortunately, they want to change the society to suit them. They don't come out to sort of adapt and be tolerant and all of that.
no.
That's
And
not what I get,
do you think
unfortunately. Yeah.
I don't know if you've thought about whether there's any what do you have any solutions or anything that you think the UK well, no, first let me start with another question. Do you see the UK going down a dangerous path? Is it something that you worry about?
Yes. Yes, I worry about that and I pray for that. And every day
Mm,
it's getting worse, and the government is responsible. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. I have deep regrets as a Labour voter to vote for Labour. It's the government that has links, strong links, and contracts with Islamic terrorist regime of Iran. The media is complicit. The government is complicit, and unfortunately, the poverty in England, it plays a deep part in the society moving towards this ideology. Unfortunately, the financial crisis in this country, it plays the main part in people just being confused about what the right thing is to do. The government
yeah,
doesn't seem to have a clue, and I really don't see a future for myself as a foreigner in this country. I really don't. I really don't know in a few years' time what our lives are going to be here. I come from a family that my brother theses about the music, because he studied music in Chichester University. His thesis that he written about how Islamic revolution affected
mm,
music in Iran was marked and failed by a Muslim
no,
person for his PhD. This is the country we live in. So he studied PhD for many years, and the university thinking, okay, a Muslim person would have more sort of
yeah,
good grasp as to mark this thesis. And that woman just said, this is Islamophobic, and failed it and
that
chucked it
is
in the bin. Just marked it as racist and Islamophobic.
yeah.
That's in the
And
report
that
that
is
she wrote.
that single word Islamophobia has been used to silence anything, any mention, anything to do
Yeah.
with it. It's
Yeah.
been used. I think it's lost its value now. I think most people are no. I don't think that many people are afraid anymore of being labeled Islamophobic.
No.
I think it
No.
was used too
No.
much, wasn't it?
Yeah. 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 So I'm really sad because this is predominantly a Christian Jewish country. We have so many Jewish people. And now I live in a country that there are people every day in the streets chanting for Israel to be wiped out of the map, for Jewish people to leave, for, they raised Ayatollah
Oh yeah,
Khamenei's photos
all that.
in a big banners and praise him.
And
Yeah,
Jews
so it's really
have
sad. Yeah,
not caused any problems in the UK. I always
it caused
it's
many
and
problems.
the there's been no terrorist attacks in the UK by Jews. I don't understand why people. The anti-Semitism is just getting out of control, and there's no rational
Yeah,
argument
yeah,
for it. I've tried to talk to people about it to understand it, but there is no argument, and
yeah,
for me
yeah.
it feels like it's just an Islamist agenda and I think it's worked. I think it has persuaded so many British
Yeah.
people that Jews are
It worked, and it was. I did go to a Jewish assembly in Brighton, and I talked a little bit to them. I said, I stand with them, I stand with Israel, and I lost friends over it, and I get dirty looks if I have a Starbucks cup in my
yeah.
hand, and all of
Mm.
those things, okay? But it's what I want to say is that, oh, sorry, I just can't talk
Um,
without getting emotional. I just want to tell you that this was planned and funded, and it was years in the making. What we're seeing on the daily basis was planned and planted by the Islamic regime with money. And now through social media, this is what they organize to do. And everyone's
yeah.
falling for it. Everyone's falling for it, and they're having a blast. They're having celebrities doing their dirty work for them. The most brilliant people in film industry, in music industry, saying the propaganda that I had to say as a child. They open their mouth and Ayatollah propaganda comes through my TV and my phone screen. They're saying the Ayatollah's
That
words for them. This is
that
really
that
scary.
I can't.
Yeah,
From a personal point of view, that must be. I can't imagine how traumatic that is. It must, and how much
yeah,
I can
yeah. It
imagine.
triggers me.
It
Yeah, yeah,
it's. But hearing, I've been saying this for so long, but hearing you say it, I've sent goosebumps down my body. Because
yeah. Did you see the footages of university in Columbia University in America that they were not letting Jewish students into the library? They didn't let Jewish people, Jewish students, other students, young students, they were spitting at Jewish students. And then there was another footage that I saw at the beginning of the war that there were few Jewish students in the library. They shut the door down in fear, and there was a massive crowd outside the door trying to kick the door down and frighten these poor students just because they were Jewish in a university. Do you understand like how frightening that is, that they won to make Jewish people
it's
scared? Just like the Nazis did, they had to wear these sewn stars so that people can know this is a Jewish person, and they treat them with disrespect and fear mongering tactics and even
it's
violence. They've done their dirty work, so they killed all of us Iranians in Iran. They stole all of our wealth and fortune. They ruined Iraq. They ruined Syria. They ruined Yemen. They ruined Gaza and Israel and Palestine and the West Bank and Lebanon. They ruined Lebanon with this disgusting Hezbollah that is funded by them. They set the world on fire. And then there are people, very intellectual people even, well educated about the world, this using the word genocide and slapping Jewish
Mm,
community with it. When we are the only genocidal regime in the world, they've done 46 years of deliberate ethnically
mm.
cleansing of Iranians.
It's
This is a slap in our face. This is such a terrible thing that is unfolding in front of my eyes at 43 years of age with what I've
mm.
seen and
And yeah,
witnessed. And people just turn their back on me. People tell me that you're a Zionist. If you say you're a Zionist, it's like you're this cold-blooded
mm.
murderer, a racist, a
It, the
demon.
and having I can't actually imagine what it must be like for you, having heard all of that your whole childhood and now hearing the same coming out of.
Yeah, yeah. It's like your worst nightmare it's
Mm,
actually
mm,
happening. It started. It is happening then. All of those years as a child that I had to memorize anti-Israel propaganda, write them in a paper, and get grades has come to reality.
mm,
People are agreeing with it. They are agreeing with it on the news, on the chat shows, in their social media
mm.
platform, in the
and this and
streets.
this is
It's,
why I wanted to have you on, because people can say that I've misunderstood or that you,
no, you haven't. I'm telling you, if I'm the last person on earth that will tell you, you haven't misunderstood
and
anything.
I
It
think
is
that
what it is.
for the people that can see it, it's very obvious, because and I think
Yeah,
I've found it's hard because you can feel crazy, can't you? Because you've got so many people
yeah,
saying to you, you've misunderstood, you're
yeah,
wrong, and there's people that there's so many people, there's a lot of Iranians at the front of the Zionist movement,
yeah.
really like you are right now, really you can see the
Yes, I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them. I'm really proud of them for sticking with the truth, and they don't accept the lie that Israel has occupied
Mm,
Palestinian lands. Jewish people and Israelis historically live in those lands, as well as other people. And Israel is not an apartheid. Arabs, Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, non-religious people all live in Israel. Israel is
right.
not an apartheid state, and they haven't occupied anybody's land. This is their birthright, only because in the
Yeah,
40s it was legally sort of bound to them and in a contract. Now they're saying that you've taken our land, a malaria-ridden swamp, a piece of land that it was so barren that
mm,
nobody wanted. And they made it into this thriving democracy, safe for everyone, tolerant to everyone, the only democracy in the whole of Middle East that is safe for women, safe for the
yeah,
LGBTQ community, that Christians and Muslims and Arabs and Europeans and anyone who goes there, they can live together, an economy that works for them, a thriving place. And they say that is the problem. They've occupied those lands. They've taken it from their rightful owners. They're pushing this lie, and people are
mm. and
agreeing
it
with them.
and agreeing with them, even when you have all the evidence there and you have all the people like you trying to say this is what life is like under the Islamic regime, and that is the bit that I will never get my head round,
Yeah,
is that it is obvious to, if
yeah,
you had a choice of living in Israel or Iran, no sane person would choose Iran. And
absolutely.
that's what I
Absolutely. Not in
no
not in
no
this
not
state. Nobody would ever go. Yeah, everyone's trying to run away from their homeland. Honestly, everyone is trying to run away from Iran. You can't breathe the air. It's so polluted. It's not just the rage. They've destroyed the environment. They destroyed the nature. You're breathing poison, and all the money is being spent to make nuclear weapon, just to stick it to Israel and to the West. And people are starving. And all Iran's wealth has been now spent and stolen on
And that,
terrorism. This is the
and it's almost like
reality of
the
it.
ultimate picture to
Yeah,
describe everything that you've said, how destructive the whole ideology is that that's what it's led these people to
yeah,
do, to turn
yeah.
Iran from what it was into
That's right.
just environmental destruction, e- economic
Absolutely.
destruction of the people, um,
Absolutely.
and that. And are you still in contact with people that are back in Iran? Yeah, and
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have friends and family in Iran. I love them. I worry about them every day because if a war breaks out again, who knows whose house is going to be hit? Who knows? My city is going to be destroyed. And the water, there have no water, no electricity. The food is so expensive, they had to ration food. I grew up in 8 years of war between Iran and Iraq. I used to have to queue up with coupons to get this much meat that had to last us 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because there
this
was
is
no
the
food.
bit that no
That
one
was
talks
my
about, this bit, because
childhood.
it's easy to focus
Yeah,
on the Islamic extremist element
no,
of it, but the
yeah,
that struggle of, yeah, it's
yeah. Yeah. But they don't, the Islamic regime doesn't care about casualties. They don't care about casualties in Gaza or Israel or Lebanon, West Bank. They don't care how many Iranians will die. They're going to make that bloody nuclear weapon because they want a war. They are the warlords in the world. And this was their lifelong goal, to have a war with Israel. For 46 years they planned it, they funded, they prepared for it, and now they're gonna do it no
and
matter
then
what.
if Israel dares to fight
Yeah,
back, they're then the
yeah,
bad
yeah, yeah.
guy.
Then they're genocidal.
Mm.
Then they're murderers. Then why don't they do a ceasefire? They held the UN. They are evil people. They didn't cooperate with Israel to take food, the aid into Gaza, just to strategize for the cameras. Oh, look, Israel is starving people of Gaza. They let the aid rot in the sun at the border so that they accuse Israel of famine. I
and
see through their bullshit. See through every move, and it's planned. And people are blindsided. They're just
there's
blind to
evidence for
all
all
of
of it.
this.
There's That's the bit that I find most
Yeah,
frustrating. You you could see the aid
yeah,
sat there. You could. It's clear for everybody to see.
yeah,
This isn't. It's not like it's subtle. Do you know? It's obvious. I
yeah,
think the thing that makes me most cross about Islamism, and the people who
yeah,
refuse to do what you've done, is that it's turning some people against any people coming here. And I think
yeah,
that's such a that's the biggest crime of it, is that. And I know that
yeah.
everyone wants to say that it's racism, but I don't think it is racism. I think it's a fear that people have, that, and
No,
it's understanding
exactly.
that fear.
And I agree with them. I agree with them. Now we're in a situation that, did you see in the news that the three culprits that were going to attack a synagogue, they came here as a refugee, but they were people working for IRGC. So IRGC sent people through asylum route to do terrorism
Terrifying.
in London. This is, honestly, this is terrifying. There are good people across the Middle East. They just need a safe place to live. They're fluent in English. They're not Muslims. They want to flee the demands of Islam. They are well educated. They can perfectly be capable of doing a job and earn an honest living and thrive here. They are not the people who
That and
get to come here though.
that's always my fear. Yeah.
This is the problem. This is the problem. This is what British people are angry about. This is what we want. It's not racism. Even me as a foreigner, I want good, wholesome Iranians to come here
Yeah.
so that I can have friends, not some dodgy people that I'm like, who let these people in this country? Who was this person in Iran that I've never seen? Was she a murderer? Was she a terrorist? Is she working still, taking news from the Iranian community to report back to the Iranian authorities
Mm.
of what we're up to in this country, in churches, at work, who does what, who's politically active?
Mm.
They report
It,
back. They just,
and
yeah,
I think
yeah.
everyone, no one was allowed to say this for so many years because it was.
No, I will say it as a foreigner for you, because if you say it, they'll be like, he's racist, he's anti-immigrant. I
Mm.
will say this. There are brilliant, well-educated people that need a safe place to
Yeah.
live. Get them out, get them, let them thrive, let them be
And
part of
that's
this
as good.
society.
There are. This is the bit that I find so frustrating. There are many people abroad that actually would help to build the economy, build, and
Yeah,
instead we
yeah,
seem to specifically be importing
exactly.
the. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah,
I it's.
yeah,
I have one final question for you, but I just before I say, I just want to say I
yeah.
just think you are. I think you're wonderful. I think you're so brave, and
Oh, I
honestly,
think
I
you're
have
wonderful, Alex.
no.
Honestly,
I
thank
just
you
have
for
so much
speaking to
respect.
me and allow me
Yeah,
to
no,
say
I just
my
have so
piece.
much respect for you
Yeah,
to come on here and say everything you've said, and you're so passionate. I honestly,
thank you.
I'm so grateful
I
that you've
am.
given me the opportunity.
I'm very
But my final
grateful.
question is,
Thank you.
what is one thing
Yes.
that you think that people aren't understanding that you want them to understand? It can be about any topic,
About
just
any
something that
topic,
you think that people aren't understanding that they need to.
that we have one enemy and one monster in this world dwelling, and that only can be defeated with Jesus Christ and the truth.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's what I want people to understand. Yeah. The only
Yeah.
solution is Jesus.
Amen. 100%.
Okay?
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you for ending with
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
You are
Thank
wonderful.
you so much. Thank you, Alex. Very grateful to you. I hope I see you in Brighton one day. Maybe you could visit us. I would love to cook Persian food
I'd love
for
that.
you.
You've been so kind. You are wonderful. Yeah, I hope you have a lovely
Thank
weekend.
you. Thank you. care. Bye. Bye.